The All Progressives Congress has not been able to inaugurate a presidential campaign council amid speculations that issues bordering on personal relationships may be at the center of it all. First was the exclusion of Vice President Yemi Osinbajo from the initial 422-man list of party bigwigs and Buhari administration officials. And now the failure of Vice President's wife, Dolapo Osinbajo, to make the list of the APC's women campaign team. Felix Morka is the National Publicity Secretary of the party, and he joins us now to do a bit of clearing up of the air. So very good to have you here. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you.
So just as the intro read, there are these glaring omissions. What are we to make of these?
Well, the omission of the name of the Vice President of the Federal Republic has been explained in terms of the need for him to be focused on the business of governing a country. Now, you must understand that between now, we have an incumbent president who is saddled with the constitutional responsibility of governing our country. And then we're going to have that transition to a new president, whoever that might be, at the end of the elections, to take charge. So while the president, as head of this campaign council, will be engaged in all of the movements around the country, the idea is to have the vice president and the secretary to the government of the Federation of Nigeria to be left alone to mind the business of the day-to-day government. Because when the campaigns really start, Mr. President himself, who is the chief executive of this country, will be involved in all of the movements that is to come. So that is the idea, not to completely
Let me interrupt you a bit. Isn't that an abdication of responsibility? Wouldn't it have made better sense for the vice president to focus on the campaign and the president that was voted into office to rule Nigeria to actually stay on the job and do the job?
No, the vice president was also voted into office. Don't forget, the presidency in a kind of democracy is a twin between the president and the vice president. So they were both elected on the same ticket and assigned the same responsibility to govern. Yes, the president is the lead. He's the chief executive. But the vice president also has a constitutional duty. But you know what? If the vice president had become the lead on the Presidential Campaign Council, I'm sure I'll be sitting here also taking questions as to why the president is not involved. But they both cannot be involved. And that's what the government has said. Whether it's right by anyone's judgment, from the perspective of the current, government, they think it necessary, perhaps even wise, to have that bifurcation of responsibility for the president to concentrate. Yes, the fact that he's campaigning doesn't mean he's going to completely abdicate his duties as president, but to have the vice president also, be there to focus full time, on that job while he is also crisscrossing the country campaigning.
Okay, that's understandable to not want to extend the duties of the vice president, to not saddle him with too much. But the optics of it, with the optics of a lot that goes on at APC, it's a little bit tricky, especially if you're not within the political scene. For outsiders, it does seem like he's being relegated to the side. And to other outsiders, Yemi Osinbajo is a bit of a favorite. We know that he did not win the presidential candidacy for the APC. And I'm sure a lot of people were wondering what his role would be afterwards. He's somewhat disappeared. So him not being included on this might lower the confidence of individuals who are not within the inter-party politics of the APC, for those who might be voting for the next elections. What do you have to say to them?
No, first of all, my good friend, the vice president, has not disappeared.
Okay.
He's the vice president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And I'm quite sure that, in between his responsibility as vice president, that he will, contribute and lend his voice, his prestige, his authority to the campaign of her party. I have no doubt about that. But I don't think we need to make too much of it or to think too much of the campaign council list. You know, the fact that you're on the campaign council list doesn't mean you're going to be the best campaigner. And the fact that you're not doesn't mean you're absent from the campaign. You know, I think we're really taking this to be too much. Look, fact is that he's a vice president. And I'm sure, even in the discharge of his constitutional responsibility as vice president, he will find that moment to say the word on behalf of our candidate, not just the presidential candidate, but also of all of our candidates. That I think, I assume that is part of his responsibility as vice president.
Okay, so you've tried to explain the vice president's not making the team, but you haven't talked about his wife, Dolapo Osinbajo. But that's not my main question anyway, even though you can reply that later. Sure. But we're hearing reports that the National Working Committee of the APC is not happy with your candidate, Bola Tinubu, due to the fact that he allegedly breached an agreement with the NWC regarding the composition of the campaign council. What more can you tell us?
I am sure you are referencing this letter, which was out there and was supposed to be a letter authored by the national chairman of our party, who is head of the NWC, of which I'm a member. But, you know, I have come out with a statement to clarify that. And I would have thought that that would be sufficient to, you know, end the speculation around that. Now, listen, fact is that when you try to put together a campaign council for the ruling party, a party of over 40 million people, that is no joke. You know what, and in any event, this is a campaign council that every member of our party, you know, wishes to be involved in. I mean, keep in mind, this candidate of our party competed at the primaries and came out on top. Now, a lot of those who made that happen would naturally wish to be involved in the campaign. So what you're seeing is an overload of interest, of enthusiasm, of desire of our party men and women to be involved in the process. You know what, those who say it's a problem, I call it a sweet problem. That's what it is. You know, I'd rather have that problem where everyone wants to be involved in the council than to have a problem where no one wants to be involved in the council, which is the case for our, you know, key opposition party, the PDP. Many of those who were listed, even given very eminent positions in the party, in the campaign council, are saying, no, we're not interested. So we have a situation where everyone, even those in the units, in our wards, want to be involved. But of course, not everyone, you know, can be listed as a member of the campaign council. Otherwise, it becomes unwieldy and unmanageable. So, you know, yes, it's a sweet problem we're trying to resolve. But, you know, we're there. We're happy we have that kind of problem, rather than the one that, you know, our guys on the other side are dealing with at the moment.
All right. Clearly, the issues that the APC face, the crisis within the APC is a little different from the crisis within the PDP, but still crisis, still involving internal mechanisms to douse the tension and to move on with something that the public can actually be proud of and want to watch. But I want to deviate from the campaign council list just a second to speak about Bola Tinubu and, of course, the viral video that we saw over the weekend. We know that last week was a the national signing of the peace accords, and Kashim Shettima and, of course, the NWC chairman were the ones that were in his stead that showed up for Tinubu. And there was a lot of discussion as to why he wasn't around. Everyone was present, etc. And it made us wonder, you know, is he not fit and healthy enough? You know, there's all these issues. We've seen videos of him shaking. We've seen all sorts of things that would cause us to fear for his health just a little bit. But we saw him on the treadmill, fit and active and pedaling away. Whether or not that video was made that same day or a couple months before is, that's not the question. My question to you now is, how is the APC going to handle the discussion about Bola Tinubu's health from now till February? It is not going away. It's not going away. On our morning show, Rufai, one of our greater journalists, had said that health records are what should be produced rather than videos of being active. What is your take on how the APC will handle this? Because it's not going to go away. I'm sure later on down the line it will be construed as hate speech. But we really do want to know how much he can take in terms of the rigors of the campaign from now till February. Your take on that?
No, our candidate, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is as fit as anyone.
Anyone?
Yes, as fit as anyone can be. I'll tell you why I say that. And I'm not saying this, to be political.
Sorry, I just want to interrupt you. What is the problem with admitting that human beings are human? Their bodies often break down, but this does not disturb the mind. Why is there not a discussion that leans more towards that his mind is okay, but maybe the body breaks down as it happens when you get over 60 or 70? Why isn't that a discussion? Because it seems to us that we're supposed to say it's raining when really someone is peeing on our leg.
No, see, look, now, for the purpose of this discussion, you have raised the question as to his health. And what I'm saying is that from my knowledge, from observing him, I'm not a medical doctor, from observing him, from being around him, from engaging with him, and for the many times over the last month that I've been at the campaign council in meetings with him and observing him meeting with others, his schedule will make anyone else who thinks they are as fit as a fiddle to actually get dizzy. I've been around him for 6 hours, uninterrupted, and watched him go back to back into meetings, one after the other, and walk people to the door as they leave. Now, yes, we can have a conversation about the body being, old or, aged or, challenged, while the mind is still very fit. We can have that conversation. But the point I'm making is that from the question you ask, all I can say is that for a man his age, Bola Ahmed Tinubu is strong and has his wits about him. Physically, I have seen him operate. Not many people, even people my age or people who are your age, who can manage 6-7 hours of non-stop meetings without a break, one team after the other. That's what he does every day at the council. Now look, in any event, who says that the older you are, the more vulnerable or the quicker you are to your grave? Who says that? You see, and that's the assumption that I find a bit disturbing. That, really belies a lot of the questions that people ask. They assume because this fellow is, an elderly person, therefore he's ready to kick the bucket. My point is that that is not, an assumption that should inform our conversation around those who compete. Now, I don't know of any other candidate who has, for that matter, even right now, offered us their full medical profile. I don't know anyone, even the younger ones who are amongst them. No one has, I'm not privy to that. I've not seen anyone.
But you could start it. The APC can start it.
Yes, the APC can start it, but also, Atiku Abubakar can start it. Peter Obi may start it. Anyone else may start. It doesn't mean that because we're a ruling party, therefore, the initiative to start must come from us. Because you know what? That also plays into this whole narrative that this particular candidate may have something, about his health that should concern us. I reject that. That's not supported by my observation and certainly not supported by natural occurrence. The people who are younger, who may even be more sick than you can imagine.
But that does happen. To the meeting.
They show up to the meeting, but his absence from the meeting, by the way, let me deal with that. It's not because he was ill. That's not the reason he wasn't there. Also, look, let's be realistic. I was called up this morning to come here. I'm here not because I didn't have other things scheduled. I'm here because I was able to reschedule my plans for today to be here. And that was also a choice I had to make. Now, the two things. One is that, I was asked to come, and I'm here. Other things that I left behind doesn't mean they are not important. But I just choose to be here because of the, nature of this engagement. My point is that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was absent from that peace, accord. Not because he was ill, not because he didn't want to, not because he thinks, he doesn't think highly of that event, but because he had prior scheduled engagements to be elsewhere, and he was already out. And as you can see from the last couple of days, we're getting, some feed, about what is going on with him. He is fine, and I'm sure he'll be back in the country very soon.
Well, we certainly hope so too. Meanwhile, I'd like to ask you, when will the Presidential Campaign Council be inaugurated, and when will campaigns actually kick off in the APC?
Our campaigns are ongoing already. I mean, even though it has yet to be, formally, globally inaugurated. But, make no mistake, at the unit levels, at the ward levels, our local government levels, and in our states, efforts are underway. Our people are, really buzzing with energy to hit the road. Yes, the formal symbolic, thing will be done. And the fact that we didn't do it on the first day of, the lifting of the campaign does not take away from the, seriousness with which we are going to attack this, program. As a matter of fact, again, we're also not very keen to have our voice and our effort lost in the cacophony of the rest of the parties on the 28th. So we are taking our time and taking a few days to get it right. By the way, I think we're entitled to actually take just a bit of, a moment to, really fine-tune our own process. We are the largest party on this continent. And I think that, there's something to be said for that. Where everyone at the unit level, it might be where I come from, Delta State. Listen, my phone is like constantly, off the hook. People trying to get involved in the unit level, campaign units and ward level and local government level. So what we're dealing with is not just at the national level. That's what interests a lot of observers. But at the unit level, people are filled with this enthusiasm to get involved. And they want to, because they know and they're confident that we're going to succeed. Because we're going to go out there to justify to Nigerians why we, deserve another mandate to govern this country. And that is not just something about Abuja and the National Presidential Campaign Council, but also of the wards, of the units, and the local government and the states as well. So a decentralized approach is what our party is building towards, to accommodate more people who are keen to get involved in this effort, to compete and win the presidency and other elections for that matter come next year.
All right, and speaking of excitement, of course, last Thursday was the official kickoff of the campaigns, not for APC, but for everybody else. And we saw the Labour Party candidate, Peter Obi. He had rallies over the weekend, over this, not Labor Day, Independence Day weekend. And we saw Nigerians come out en masse to support a candidate of Eastern extraction. Before the primaries, before any of that, the representation of the Southeast has become a major topic of discussion that kind of showed how everything played out, especially during the primaries. We know the PDP has their own unique situation with Governor Wike, but within the APC, it's more of an issue of the fact that it's a Muslim ticket. And some Southeastern individuals don't feel like they have been represented on any of the councils, not the campaign council, not in the presidential ticket, etc. How are you going to manage this sentiment that is growing? It's clearly growing. The call for Southeast representation or Igbo presidency is large. How will the APC manage this? Also knowing that the Labour Party is not the, it's not APC or PDP. It's a far third, and it seems like it's coming around the bed to nip at the ankles of the APC and PDP. What's your take on this?
First of all, in the APC, we do not at all take for granted peoples in any zone of our country. We take everyone equally seriously. Our people in the southeast of Nigeria are they're just as important as any other, our peoples from our zones, whether from the rest of the 5 zones in the country. So we have enormous respect for them, and we hope and wish that they will, even sort of pump up their energy for our party. As for the, campaign council, as already announced, yes, we have, eminent party men and women from that region who are included in the council. I mean, why not? I mean, the votes are votes. Votes have no regional coloration. When you win votes, you win votes. And our business is to persuade our people around the country, irrespective of zones, to support us. Now, having said that, I think that, Peter Obi is a candidate for his party, and they're busy rallying. But, I think it's absolutely premature for anyone to judge just because they are, out there conducting these rallies does not mean they're going to put up the best rallies or put up the most incredible and, magnetic rallies. We are yet to, unleash. And when we do, I am quite sure that, a lot of what you see will be absolutely dwarfed by the power of the numbers of our people who are determined to come out and show support for this candidate of our party. Look, we're not just the ruling party, but beyond being a ruling party, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is the head of our ticket, is someone who has traversed this country in more ways than you can even imagine. This fellow is embedded in the lives and in the consciousness of so many people from across the regions. And I'm sure that when he began that whole effort of being Asiwaju, I don't think running for president was necessarily on his mind back in the day.
Oh, he said it's always been his ambition.
Lifelong ambition.
No, he may say that, he may say that now, you may suggest that now. But I think that, when I knew him back then in the movement, in the pro-democracy movement, I don't believe that, any one of us who were in that movement were, thinking about the presidency at some point down the line, because the entire, our attention was wrapped singularly in the effort to get the military out. My point is that whatever has happened since he became governor of Lagos State and the track record he has created, I think that he has earned the right to the support of those who support him. And that you can't take away from him. And I think that's all part of the ingredients that we coalesce into, the kind of process and program of action that we're about to launch. And I think that at the end of the day, I have no doubt that all of the, noise that you hear will pale into insignificance in comparison with what is to come of our candidate.
Okay, so you said one of the duties of the campaign council will be to convince Nigeria on why you deserve another mandate.
Correct.
So I would actually like to take you up on that. You know how Nigeria is at the moment. People believe that the change that was promised to Nigerians in 2015, even in 2019, we're yet to get that change. Now you're asking for another mandate, the same ruling party that some people would even argue of taking Nigeria way back than it was in 2015. So why do you deserve another mandate?
Perception and reality are not necessarily coterminous. Sometimes, perception can take you east. Reality can be, somewhere in the
For
west.
those that have been affected by insecurity, for those that are feeling the bite in inflation, for Nigerian students that are still at home, I'm sure they would know the reality. They would understand. It is actually people that are not in their shoes that can be talking about perception and reality.
I don't agree. I can be hungry right now. Doesn't mean I believe I'm going to be hungry tomorrow.
No, we've been hungry for years.
For years.
Yes.
Okay, for years. Look. Let me answer the question. I think it's a fair question.
Go ahead.
Yes. The point is, this government of 7 years has objectively done an amazing job. Now, if you believe that the government has done nothing, what I'm saying and what I'm about to say may not impress you that much, but you are just you, and there's still a section of this country of people who can sit back and actually try to just be, objective. There's not been a time for a very long time that this country was a walk in the park. That living in Nigeria was a walk in the park, was a tea party. Life has always been challenging for our people. I mean, look at the data, look at the statistics. You can't deny that. It's not as though we were living in some utopian system before this government came, and all of a sudden utopia has evaporated. That was not the case. Things have always been difficult. Now, I think that if you really want to be objective and not just be emotive about this conversation, you will agree that even on the issue of security, that a whole lot has been done a time was when you and I couldn't walk the streets of Abuja in this country, in just recent memory, because of all of the violence in our capital city. Bombs going off in places you didn't expect, including the police headquarters. That is not happening today. Please, madam, I'm sorry, but, let me just say this. It's not happening. Has this government been able to completely, wipe out every threat to our security? No, it has not. Was that the promise? No, it was not. Is that even something that is realistic, to be expected? Has governments around the world, some of the most sophisticated governments, have they managed to completely wipe out insecurity? No, they have not. But that's not the test. If we make that the test, then you can reach your verdict. But if that's not the test and that's not the standard, that this government promised a complete, if you will, just to extinguish every threat to our security, that was not and that's not the conversation we should be having. The question is, it's always relative. Relative to when this government came in, has there been progress made? Has there been, all the swaths of territory that were controlled by insurgents and by, terrorists? Is it the same today? The answer is not. The country is better off than we were in 2015 when it comes to security. I mean, that is not, we can in 2 minutes deal with that. But look, listen, bring me back, and I give you a promise.
We would love
bring
to
me back to discuss just some of these issues, not just the security, on the economy, on, just
education,
everyday, on education.
Healthcare.
Please bring me back and make that the subject matter. And I'm happy to actually come here and let's have a realistic conversation, because the hysteria is engineered by those who simply want to, fly this flag. But that's a departure from the reality of things. Whether it's on national security, the economy, it's the economy. Listen, a bottle of water.
Mr. Felix Morka, I'm so sorry.
Anywhere else in the world.
We are completely out of time.
Okay.
This discussion was
you will have me
just
back.
very
And I'll come back. I'll be happy to come back.
APC National Publicity Secretary, Felix Morka, thank you so much.
Thank you, madam.
For joining
Thank you
us
so much for having
today.
me. I appreciate it. Thank you.